How many times have you had technical support people that want to move into sales? Engineers, tech support, you know as well as I do that many times that turns out not so well. Sometimes it works out. In this episode of Sales and Training, I want to share the fantastic story of a gentleman named Kermitt Francis, who began his career in accounting, moved into coding, eventually moved into sales, and just crushed it. If anybody understands relationships and what they really are and how to use them in selling, here's a guy you want to listen to. This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. Hey, welcome to Sales Untraining. I am Kelly Riggs, and it is your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. Today, we're going to have a really interesting discussion with a guy named Kermitt Francis. I'm excited to do that. Before we do, though, hey, do me a favor. Take just a second, and if you would, please like and subscribe to the podcast. But even more importantly, especially if you like today's episode, share it with somebody you think should be a part of that conversation. Today, we're going to talk about some buzzwords in the sales industry, and it's relationships and trust and taking technical people and moving them into sales roles. Kermitt Francis, it's got a phenomenal background I talked about in the cold open, but you actually started in accounting as an auditor, then you moved into the world of coding, and now you're a sales guy. I got to tell you, though, I've known you for a while now. You're a really unique guy. You're kind of a unicorn because you don't see a lot of auditors, accounting people, and coding people with the kind of personality that you have. So my first question's simple. How in the world did you wind up on the technical side of things to begin with?
So it's funny. It's a funny story how that happened. I did accounting and auditing for 20 years. I loved it, but I was like, I always wanted to do more. And I always felt like I can help the customer more if I can do more. It's always about, end of the day, what we could do more for the customer. So I started doing little classes here and there. And then that's when I met a recruiter at Tech South. It was like, hey, we need a functional person here, a functional developer, which means that you basically are alongside a technical developer. You basically tell them the accounting portions of it.
Okay.
But what wound up happening is when I actually got on site, the developer I had wasn't as strong as he should have been. And I always had that willingness to want to learn a little bit more. So I started going in the back and building it myself. And then here we are today. And I built out so many different things. It was always the eagerness to learn more, to do more for the customer. So that's kind of how I got here.
It's absolutely amazing to me because we talk a lot about in the world of selling about relationships and you know, how important they are, but it's one of those words that's completely misunderstood. And I've talked about it a lot in the past episodes, even posts that I've written is that relationships is one of the most overused and abused words out there. But the reality is you have actually leveraged relationships in a way that really matters. I mean, because it's not just small talk and rapport building and all that. You've actually built some incredibly powerful relationships over time that have really allowed you to be successful as a salesperson. Tell me your perspective about relationships and how you think it relates to selling.
So that's a good point you made right there that people don't realize. A lot of salespeople come off as we say, the used car salesman. They want to say whatever they can say to be your friend. They're not really genuine in what they are doing. Me, on the other hand, I actually care about the person. Even with my current staff that I have right now, I always say you work with me, not for me. What it means is that I care more about the person than the job. So when I'm meeting these people out there in the relationships I've fostered for 10, 15, 20 years, it's more about, we talk about our kids and the things we have alike and what's going on. And it's not just about selling to them, right? It's about getting to know them. So there's places that I go and we're sitting there and we talk for hours and we forget, oh my God, I never told you about my product. And then like a month or two later, they'll reach out to me like, oh yeah, we have this problem that has arisen. Does your company do that? I go, yeah, we actually do that. And we sit there and laugh about it like, yeah, you think we could get y'all on contract or something like that? So it kind of works out good because it's a genuine relationship. I'm not there to like a quit type pro type thing. I'm not trying to just be there to just say, oh, I'm gonna be your friend today so I can get a hamburger on Tuesday. It's not that. I'm there because I genuinely care about them. And that's the big thing about that. And that's what makes it so unique and different and why I have so many friends in so many different places because of that.
Well, it's really interesting because it sales is I don't think sales is about personality, but personality really can be a leverageable tool, but only if I'm hearing you right, only if you really care about the person that you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And that's the big thing that everybody has a personality. Whether you think so or not, you have a personality. You don't want your ego and your personality bigger than the person that you are talking to. But at the same token is you want to generally care. No one is just a tool. Everybody has feelings. Everybody's breathing. So just generally care about the person, and that's really what matters right there.
To your point, you were telling me a story before we came on and started recording, but the guys that work for you now, you're taking some of the technical guys in your company who have sort of the same inclinations that you might have and bringing them forward and bringing them into sales, which is a little bit of a risk for a lot of companies because they don't know how to train the salesperson. They don't know how they just think, oh, they know tons about the product. They're going to be amazing salespeople. And you and I both know that's not true at all. But one of your guys was out making a call with you, and you said that after the call, he pulled you aside and says, how do you do that? You're like, what do you mean? And he said, these guys are telling you everything about their problems and their issues with their products, and you didn't even talk about business. How do you do that? Tell me a little bit more about that experience and how it impacted that salesperson.
So it's crazy, right? So it's a twofold thing, right? So bringing technical people on, like I said, huge risk, right? Because most technical people, they just want to sit behind the screen and just code. This is what I want to do. I want to find the problems and once it's working like that. So like we talked about before, it's about the personality. It's about the willingness to do this as well, right? So it's three things there, right? The team of team concept works as well. But when you get technical people in here to do this thing, right? Yes, they're going to understand the product more than anything else, but the willingness to understand. The particular story that you are talking about is very unique. We was at an event and we were sitting there talking and we were talking about our kids and college and all the stuff like that. And then they said, oh yeah, by the way, and it's the right questions to ask at the right time as well. But sometimes people don't realize you're asking questions like, you're just talking about kids and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, I remember when because we worked forever. All of us are older now. I remember when I worked down at the Coast Guard base, this used to happen to me. Oh my God, you have no idea. This is what we're going through now. And then we start talking about what they're currently going through now. Like, oh my God, that's how much time are you wasting? And you start digging into that kind of stuff of what their actually heartbreaks are and what they're going through. And then they just open up about everything. And there's like little words you say, like, man, that must suck. Suck ain't the word. Like, I'd rather just be back with my family right now. And how much time we're wasting. And it just open up to you. But again, it goes back to being genuine and actually not just listening, but listening with understanding and just being there and actually being thought for them is what really you have to do in these roles.
This is what I love about the example of you as a sales guy is because a lot of people labor under this conception that selling is about a big personality. And I think you certainly have a big personality when you want to, but the secret sauce is it's because you care about people. You haven't lost sight of the sales side of it, asking the good questions and creating the dialogue and discovering the challenges. And that eventually leads you down the road where you begin to find out exactly how to make that sale. And so it's not just about big personality, but I think that's one of the big misconceptions for most average people. They think, well, selling is about personality and the gift of gab, and this guy could, talk paint off a wall, so he's going to be great in sales. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of those guys fail as well, don't they?
They do, absolutely, because they're never connecting with the customer. It's
Right.
always a pitch. It's always, I'm telling you this because I'm trying to get this out of you. They don't generally care at all. So, and that's the biggest thing right there. So, of course, they're going to fail out or wash out, as we say, is because they don't really care. It's like, if I don't get this one, let's go to the next one. And I'll just keep doing it until eventually I'll get the right one. But people buy, as we know, off of emotion. If they can kindle with you in any way, Absolutely. They're going like, oh yeah, I know this guy down here that I know that it can help. And I always go back to when I was a developer at TechSouth when I was working at Air Combat Command. People would call me from all over the world with stuff that had nothing to do with our products. But would say, hey, I need help with this right here. I got you. I don't know enough about it, but I'll stay on the phone with you and we'll do it together. And then they'll get up and they'll move up in the rankings. And you know what? I remember calling this guy here before. You had nothing to do with his product, but he helped me. And now I'm having this new problem. Absolutely, I would love for him to help us do this because that's his personality is to help. And he's genuinely going to care about it because he didn't have to do this before.
Yeah, now we're getting really down to the core of things because personality doesn't get you there, but being truly empathetic and caring about them and being a person of value, that's what's attractive about Kermitt Francis. I think it's what's attractive about all great salespeople is they are not seen as salespeople. They're seen as people who can help me. And you demonstrate that by doing things that actually have zero to do with what you do early on. And the next thing you know, you're like, hey, this is a kind of guy I want to do business with. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Absolutely. And they'll always remember that because people always, they will forget what you say and what you do, but they're always going to remember how you made them feel at the end of the day. If you help them at their weakest point when they were like, oh my God, I'm just so frustrated, and then you relieve that stress, you're always going to be the easy button. They're always going to come to you for help. And as you move up in your career, moving these different windows, like as I did, accounting, auditing, developer to sales, they remember like, oh, this guy helped
Absolutely.
me out. So they're always going to be there for you.
Yeah, nice Maya Angelou reference, by the way.
You like
I know
that?
that you were in a coding background and all that, and I got to believe, Kermit, that the technical aspect of doing the job and understanding the foundation of the product and the outcomes that it creates, I got to believe that that was truly beneficial. The technical background as a salesperson. Kind of talk a little bit about that and how you used it and leveraged that background.
So absolutely, and it's kind of one of the things that we're doing with Tech South as well, bringing developers on as salespeople. Because as a developer, right, the key thing is to listen to what the customer wants. They can come to you and say, "I want this thing to be purple with this going to turn the sky and come to me and wave me every morning." You have to generally listen to what they want, right? What are the needs of the customer? So therefore, you can build out what they did, right? Kind of like a proof of concept. By listening to them, you can do that. So being a developer and having that 10 years under me of me being a developer worked out great because I had all the time to meet with the customer and kind of work with them side by side to understand what their heart breaks on, what is going on with them. So therefore, you can assist more with them because of that. And that's a great thing about it, about doing that right there. And the also thing too is that when we say being a developer and how else it helps, especially in the Salesforce, I know my company's products well because I was doing one of the company's products. So therefore,
Right.
I'm like, oh, I know this product well. I can talk it. I'm passionate about it because this is what I did for X amount of years. So therefore,
Right.
I want to go out there. I want to talk about the product because I'm passionate about this. This is
Sure.
what I want to do.
That makes a lot of sense. How often did you find yourself challenging a customer because they want something and you know more about it than they do? And did you have the courage to come out and say, hang on a second, I think you're going down a wrong path and let's talk about some alternatives. Is that part of the program as well?
So yeah, so it's funny you say that, right? Everybody knows everything, right? Everybody's good at what they do. If I was a resource advisor for 50 years, I'm gonna say I know more than ever. And sometimes what we forget is that we get caught on our day-to-day routine, right? And it's the same thing with a developer. So a lot of times when you're talking to people and you're talking about that, right? I always ask the question, okay, it's like the Lean Six Sigma, the five whys. If you keep asking why enough, you'll get back to the first why. So
Sure.
I ask the right questions of why we're doing it. Like something as simple as a status of funds, right? So everybody looks at the status of funds, right? When we was building our tools and stuff like that in TechSouth, we asked that question as why do you look at a status of funds? I don't know because I do it every day, but why do you do it? Because it's part of my job. But what are you looking for? Um, I'm looking at the numbers. Okay, okay, we're getting somewhere. But why are you looking at the numbers? So you kind of keep asking those kind of questions. We laugh about it, but you keep asking those kind of questions, and you start figuring out, oh, I want to see what's changed from yesterday to today. I also want to know where I'm at. Oh, well, that makes sense. So that kind of goes back to your question when they think they know a lot more. I'm not saying we're not going to discredit anybody. They probably do on the process. But as you start digging into the why they're doing these things there, you start realizing you kind of get them to understand what I'm trying to do is this. I'm trying to understand the reason why you want this. We can help you the best because we don't want to have to redo work 8, 9, 10, 30 times when we can do it the first time, maybe the second time, right? Therefore, it gives you all that time back because you remember time is an essence. That's the one thing we don't ever get back in life is time. And we're trying to give that back to people.
Man, that's fantastic. He's Kermitt Francis. He is the Director of Business Development at Tech South. And we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to have 3 things that as a sales leader, you need to look for in those technical people to see if they can actually be great salespeople. Stay with me. Hey, thanks for making Sales Untraining your first listen of the week. And if you find something you like, if you hear something that's interesting, I hope you'll share it with somebody you know. You can find out more about me at bizlockerroom.com or email me, kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Now back to the show. There is a very, very thin line between a con artist and a professional salesperson. No, before you get offended, it is true because the salesperson is trying to build trust, create a relationship in order to do business with you. Con artist is trying to build credibility, build trust, create a relationship with you so they can steal from you, right? It comes down to what is your motive, and that motive matters because evil intent makes it definitely, from the negative perspective, manipulation, but it's manipulation regardless. The only question is, what is your intent? You know what that very thin line is that divides con artist from salesperson? It's called character. Welcome back, Sales Untraining, the podcast. Again, hope you'll share it with somebody you think needs to be a part of the conversation. And today's conversation is a good one because so many sales leaders trying to find talent, trying to put people on the front lines that can really impact the company. Sometimes there's some people on the back end, on the technical side, that might potentially be really world-class performers. And you know, what I heard you say, Kermit, that I think really sticks with me is you were a guy who was a learner and you always wanted to go to the next level and learn more. And the other piece of that was you had this genuine empathy for people. It sounds to me like, based on what you've shared, that really that's kind of what you should be looking for in those technical people. If you find somebody that really has a drive and a motivation to learn and they have a genuine empathy for people, maybe they've got that foundational structure you're looking for. Is that fair?
So that's a piece of it. So foundation is a big thing, right? So you have that, you have the technical skills, you have the enthusiasm to talk to people, right? But there's other things you need to do too, right? And this is a big thing right here. You got to start with some kind of education, right? Because being a developer or being technical is different than selling. So you have to start. I always say this all the time. I love the trainings here with Kelly Riggs. You start with the Kelly Riggs training, right? And that's a good foundational start. It's because I thought I knew a lot, right? I said, oh, I can sell. This is going to be easy. But then you kind of put it out there of different ways of looking at things that you kind of wouldn't think about. And like, kind of like earning the right to sell, gaining the trust of people, right? Those are really big things that we started. Now we talked about gaining trust and things like that, but that's a big thing right there, right? So that's part of the foundation, right? The way we onboard people is another big thing as well, too, right? Meaning that you know one aspect of the company, maybe 2 or 3, but there's so many different things you got to look at, especially when you're doing like business development. You got to know about RFIs and RFPs and, writing to proposals and things like that. So there's all these little things that you still have to learn. So you also want to take the time with that person to kind of get them the good foundation. And that's one thing we have done really well at Tech South is foundation. When I was a developer, we went to class for a few weeks to understand how to remember. Like I said, I started as an accountant and as an auditor and came over to this, no technical background. And then I became a pretty good developer in my eyes, but my foundation was there. It's the same thing in the sales side. If we give them that, give them the good training, the good education to do that, do the training, and then the onboarding process to kind of understand different things, and giving them milestones, and in those milestones of what we need to kind of go over and how we can achieve these milestones helps out as well. And then going out there and say, okay, now I want you to shadow me and some calls and things of that nature. So therefore, they can kind of see how to interact with that. And then I think you have a really successful people because of that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And clearly, I've always been a training guy, so I think getting better each and every day and learning more and more about what I do, my profession, the psychology of selling. I mean, there's just so many different things, as you say, to onboard people with. But that technical person, the real advantage they bring, if you've got the right raw material, they bring that knowledge of the product. But it's too easy, I think, Kermitt, for people to get focused on just the technical details of the product and not actually what the product does for customers. And from my observation of you, that was the difference. You weren't just putting out the details of the product, you were actually connecting the results that you could create for your customers.
So absolutely, right? Because if you're too technical, you're going to lose the person, right? You automatically lose the customer because you're too technical. They're like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. He's talking about purple horseshoes and purple dinosaurs. I have no idea what this guy is talking about. If you lose them in the conversation, you've lost it already. Right. You have to bring it to a level that resonates with them. And how do you do that? You kind of talk about what they're going through in their everyday life and what's going on. Hey, like I talked about earlier, when you're having a conversation like, oh, what about these things here? What about this? So just go upon those questions of like I said, the fact finding of what's going on. What are they real heart root problems? Now, a lot of times we talk to people that jobs that we've had in the past. So you can resonate with them like, oh, I remember when I did this right here and we had to do this. Oh, I remember that too. Oh, well, this is how we fixed that problem right here by doing this. So it's all about making it life easier. Everybody wants that red easy button, but not everybody gets it. This is all about resonating with them to show them we can make your life easier by doing these things right here.
Yeah, that's so good. And, it's interesting because a lot of people think when they're in the technical side, they're like, hey, I want to be in sales. You know why? Man, those guys have it easy. They make a lot of money. They play golf 3 times a week, that whole kind of thing. But they can lose that what looks like a passion at first or a motivation or a desire. How do you keep that flame burning? Because, I mean, you know very well, sales can be very, very hard on your mindset, on you emotionally, especially if you lose a deal or if you struggle or whatever. Can you train that new technical person that, hey, you're going to go through some hills and valleys. You got to be prepared for that. How do you deal with that?
So it's a twofold thing. I do apologize. It's a twofold thing with that. It goes back what we said at the beginning of the podcast. It's about being genuine. You got to be genuine with the person you're talking to, because everybody can smell BS from a mile away. If you're like this sleazy car salesman, they're gonna string you along like yeah, you're a good neighbor, as we say. Like we're gonna talk, we're gonna shoot around. It's gonna be fun. We'll play a round of golf. We'll go to the bar and stuff like that. But then like in the back of their mind, like we're never going with this guy. We have no idea. He's just a fun guy to be with. Right?
And yet that guy will say, I've got a great relationship with
exactly.
him, right?
I have a great relationship with this guy, but they never close a deal. And they don't close a deal because they're not genuine. The biggest thing is, I can't harp on it up. You got to be genuine. Talk from your heart. Put yourself in their shoes. Understand what they are going through. Because once you were there for, closing a deal is great. Everybody loves that. But at the same token is, if you're not genuine, everybody can spot that out. So you want to make sure that you are doing that and doing the right thing, right? And also, it's always what you can do to help them, right? And I always told the story, as I said earlier, about people would call me up from all over the place when I was at Air Combat Command, and they would ask me these questions that had nothing to do with me. But I'm like, yeah, I'll help you out with it, and because I generally wanted to help, and that was my thing, is that it's generally helping people to do that, and people would do that. But don't get me wrong, there are other things that play into not closing a deal, right? Is sometimes not talking to the decision maker. You're talking to someone at a lower level, and you don't realize it, and you're kind of talking to them. Then they go to the decision maker, like, no, we're not doing that because there's no relationship there, and they're like, well, we've already been doing this for 80 years. Why do this now? We could just do it for cheap and not do anything. So. Right. Is talking to the right people is another thing, to the right person, I should say. It's a big takeaway as well. And trying to get in the room with that and pleading your case. And when you get into the room with the decision making, having the right champion, as I say, and what a champion is, the person who's going to champion not just your views, but their views of what they're going through, because they're going to be at the job day to day of how this product or whatever it might be, or this ideology of how it's going to benefit everyone. And that's kind of how that works right there.
You got into sales, as we close out this episode, you got into sales as a technical guy coming out of accounting and auditing into the coding world, and then you just got over into sales. And my understanding is that someone saw in you the capacity to really be effective in sales, because you were in essence selling, even though you were in a technical situation, right?
Absolutely. So and that's the thing, right? When something is natural to you and you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, you don't realize what you're doing, right? If you go and give everybody $1 that passes you in the building, you don't realize that you're just doing it because it's part of you. I didn't realize that the whole time I was a developer, I was selling at the same time, is because I was providing a service, helping people out, doing what I can do. So every time they thought of something, oh, we have this problem, we'll reach out to this guy, we'll reach out to this guy. Oh, we know we can get into Kermitt all the time, because no matter what time of the day, we can call them any time of the day. It could be 10 o'clock at night. They can call me. I would pick the phone up like, hey, what can I do to help you? Not realizing I was doing that this whole time. So when I moved over to sales, it was kind of like, oh, this makes sense, is because I'm technically already doing this, and these are my friends that are friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, that they kind of just worked out that way. I can't count on two hands and my feet of how many calls we've been on. Like, oh, I remember Kermit. I was at such and such with you before, and I used to call you all the time. Like, you did? And oh yeah, Kermit's a good person right here. We like him a lot. And it's like, oh. And I've also been in places that I didn't even have to talk about the products that Tech South sell.
Right.
They were like, oh, we'll just go with you because we know we've dealt with you when you was at Air Combat Command, or when you was back at the Coast Guard. We remember you. And and with you doing this by yourself, you can only imagine the company behind you of how you would be.
Well, now you've worked your way all the way up to the leadership side of sales. Mm-hmm. What's been your biggest challenge as a sales leader coming out of a technical background?
So it's funny you say that, right? So it's a twofold question right there, right? It's a lot of obstacles, because I always say is that you want to be a leader, but you want to be a good leader, right? My thing is, like, I tell my staff all the time, I care more about the person than the job. I know a lot of people are like, oh, whoa, what are you talking about? What do you mean you care more about the person than the job? I'm a people's person. I care about the person, what they're going through, what's going on, what I can do to help. We do this agile process that we actually talk to my staff 30 minutes each a day, right? Not all in 1 week, but it's not back to back, and they're spread out throughout the week. So that way they have that one-on-one time so they can talk to me, right?
Right.
That was a big difference for me, because I never thought about that. Now they can open up. They're not in a group environment. You can have a one-on-one with me, and they can say, hey, I've been working on this, and this customer's here, right? And I've been doing everything I can do. It's just I just can't close it. Well, how would you do this? Like, oh, well, let's go over this. Let's read it. Let's tell me that's role play. Let's do these things, because now they're not in a group and they're not in a group environment around their peers. They have that one-on-one. So now I can help more. I'm not the worker bee as much, meaning that I'm there to assist and guide and give the people that I have to work with me, not for me, big difference, a good foundation so they all can be successful. So that was the big thing right there, of the thing that I struggled with, because I didn't know that at first. But now, going through my trainings and stuff, I've realized that's a better way of doing it.
Oh, that's so good, man. My friend, a master class in sales and sales leadership concepts. So good to have you on board. Again, Kermitt Francis. Find him on LinkedIn. Get connected to him. And we'll see you next time on Sales Untraining.
Sales Untraining is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.